The Business Day columnist and Intellidex chairperson Stuart Theobald says sacking Nene is a bad idea. Well, Mr. Theobald joins me live via Skype now. Stuart, good morning to you. So I just want to capture your column here that you wrote this morning. You're saying, in the end, Nene did his job. Resigning will hurt the commission, that is the State Capture Commission. Why do you hold this view?
That's right. I think that Minister Nene made a serious mistake. But when it came to the really important decisions, the decision that could have put South Africa onto a path directly to financial ruin, he made the right decision and refused to bow to pressure to sign agreements that would have saddled South Africa with up to R1 trillion of debt for a nuclear program that the country doesn't even need. That was the crucial decision, and he made the right one. Now, I think that anyone who has served in cabinet during the state capture years, during the years of the Zuma president, really suffered many occasions when they had divided loyalties. On the one hand, they're appointed by the president, and as members of the ANC, they have a loyalty to the party and the policy positions and the wishes of the president. On the other hand, there are many who aspire to do a good job, to be professionals in their civil service duties and to deliver on their mandates to the people of the country. Now, that can create tensions, and I think during the Zuma years, for many good and honest people, there was an unbearable dissonance between those two aspirations, if you like. And the real test of whether someone has genuine character is when those two competing objectives come into fundamental tension. Which way do they go? Do they go against their implied loyalty in order to do the right thing, or do they abandon what the right thing means and just go with the loyalty? And in Nhlanhla Nene, we have a man who demonstrated that when that crucial decision came along, he abandoned loyalty and went for what was in the interests of South Africa and its people. And I think we should respect that now. It's too easy for us, sitting in hindsight, to look back at the Zuma years and tell people what they should have done. At the time, it was not as clear as it is now. And the Guptas are a family that had many tools that they used in their project of gaining control over the state. Sometimes they were outright manipulative and attempted to bribe people. Other times they were quite charming and attempted to win people over. And I think in the case of Nhlanhla Nene, his exposure to the Guptas was really because he was asked by his president to meet with him, and he went and heard them out. And I think that we need, in undoing the period of state capture and exploring and understanding what really happened, I think we need to do so with a level of tolerance and to encourage people who might have made mistakes to come forward. There should not be a political lynching of somebody who comes out now and admits that they made errors at the time.
I guess I don't want to be accused of being too pedantic when it comes to this, but you saying that he was asked by the former president to go and meet the Guptas. At the commission, I was there. He said nothing of the sort in terms of him being either forced or asked to go to meet the Guptas. But also, the other element here, Stuart, is that do you not think, though, that people like Nhlanhla Nene are being let off scot-free because his son's business dealings with Gupta associates? Shouldn't that also be a loaded gun in as far as if you put Nene's son, Siyabonga, next to a Tutuzane, for example? Why are we cherry-picking?
So I think on the first point on being asked, I think that there is, it's a fluid and sort of grey environment in which the Guptas were positioned as champions of economic development of the country and champions of black empowerment. And there was a lot of pressure placed on many people in government to engage with them on those grounds. And my understanding is that Nene was told that as a custodian of the economy, that he should meet with these people because they are the solution. They are trying to develop the country. They are building their businesses, and that was the environment in which he engaged. So there might be it might be a technical issue of did the president directly instruct him or not. I think we should recognise that at the time there was a culture and an expectation that these things would happen. I think on the PIC matter, I read the Mail and Guardian's piece on Friday in detail, and there were certainly some issues around the role of Nhlanhla Nene's son in one entity in a deal that the PIC did. But from what I can see, and I think that this is something that should be investigated further, but from the facts that I could determine, Nhlanhla Nene's son was not involved at the point when any deal was done and withdrew from the deal himself. Now, Nene has said to the Commission that he was unaware of his son's involvement at the time that there was any initial engagement. But it seems to me that when he became aware, that is the point at which his son withdrew. So I can't see on the facts that there was a real case of anything untoward happening there. But again, these are matters that should be investigated and examined. Your point on whether he should be allowed to escape scot-free, scot-free of what? I mean, the only error that I can determine that Nhlanhla Nene made is that he denied that he had met the Guptas when he was asked by journalists on your channel at the time that he resigned in 2015, and he denied that he'd met them other than through sort of social encounters. That was just untrue. That was a serious error. Now, I don't know why he made that error. At the time he had just been fired as finance minister, and he was keeping a low profile. He should explain to us why he made that error. But when he put out the apology on Friday, his apology was about that specific issue, that he had misled us, he had lied to us, and did so to a journalist. But last week, when he was under oath and at the Commission, he came clean and told us the truth and apologized for that omission. Now, I think we need to keep some context here. Alongside Nhlanhla Nene on the cabinet, there are several people who met with the Guptas far more often than he did, not only at meetings at which there might be a plausible explanation, but attended various social encounters, the Sun City wedding, Diwali celebrations, and so on. Those ministers are keeping very quiet about their engagements. Now, I think if we're going to hold people to a certain standard, we need to be consistent in that standard across the cabinet.
In your writing this morning, you also raised the danger that if Nhlanhla Nene is sacked, it might impede the work of the state capture inquiry. Why do you hold that view?
Look, the Commission needs people to come forward and share what they know. Now, through the last decade of our country and the turmoil that we've been in, there are lots of people who are just trying to do their jobs, who made errors of judgment, who weren't necessarily involved in any criminal activity, and nothing that has been said about Nhlanhla Nene comes close to criminal activity. Now, there are people who are in that position who might have made mistakes, who allowed the Guptas access or had meetings with them, but didn't do anything amounting to criminal activity. We need those people to come forward and share what they know. If we create a precedent where coming forward and admitting that you made mistakes and in the process of explaining what you know leads to a political lynching, that creates a massive disincentive, and that harms the Commission's objectives. It damages its ability to solicit information from the public sector. There are lots of people with information at their fingertips. We want them to come and share that information with the Commission and with the public at large. And we should incentivize them. There shouldn't be a culture where something you say to the Commission that is not of a criminal nature leads to the end of your career. That would not assist the process of coming to terms with and dealing with what happened during the Zuma presidency.
Just as we taper down in this conversation, Stuart, the other crucial point that you raise is that there might be ulterior motives for the EFF going after Nhlanhla Nene in the manner in which they have, and you raise issues of them and their dealings with tobacco tax dodgers. That's in reference to your article, and also the VBS matter. Expand for me a little bit there.
Well, we know from Jacques Poe's book, The President's Keepers, that big tobacco criminality is a major factor in SARS, and we also know from there that there have been engagements with the EFF and funding lines that have happened. We also know that the EFF was bizarrely defensive about VBS Mutual Bank when issues first arose at the bank. We know that there are various forensic investigations into the bank and its activities in Limpopo province. Both of these things are closely tied to the National Treasury and to the Minister of Finance. They're essentially happening under his watch. There might be, depending on what the EFF's exposure to those two issues really is, there might be issues or incentives that the EFF has in an effort to discredit National Treasury. I think we should be on guard that things might not always be what they seem to be.
Just as a final question to you, as a man who writes on business matters and the economy at large, if President Cyril Ramaphosa accepts this alleged resignation that Nhlanhla Nene has offered, what might this do to the economy?
Look, the economy is a function of policy and the policy environment, and it shouldn't be about any one individual. I think if Nhlanhla Nene is allowed to resign, the crucial issue will be who his replacement is. I think if there is a credible replacement whom the market, who investors and business people respect, will be able to do the right thing and be relied on to implement policy properly, that could be positive for the business environment. I do think the negative is that you have someone who has generally proven himself to be an honourable person being exited from cabinet, while so many other people in cabinet who have a far worse legacy about their involvement in state capture are allowed to continue there. That would be bad messaging and bad optics for the president.
Stuart Theobald, thank you very much for your time. He is a Business Day columnist and Intellidex chairperson. Of course, his views very clear that when all is said and done, Nhlanhla Nene did his job, and if he does resign, it'll actually affect the work of the state capture inquiry.